Thanks for choosing to listen to this edition of Chris Fabry Live. As we have said on the program many times, you are always an insider with us. We don't charge for this service. But if you'd like to contribute to help out, go to chrisfabrylive.org and click on the support button. Now, enjoy the program. You are in for a real treat today on Chris Fabry Live. Thanks for joining us for a conversation that matters, and music that matters, and a family that matters. I am so glad for you to hear this broadcast if you have not heard it, and if you've heard it already, you're going to hear it again. The Willis Clan will join us. They were contestants on the program America's Got Talent, and you'll hear them today on this Command Performance edition of Chris Fabry Live. If you hear a phone number today, disregard it. We are not live. I'll be back live tomorrow with one of my favorite peeps on the planet, Dr. Rosalie DesRosiers of Moody Bible Institute. Hope you can join me then. Nate McMillan, Ryan McConaughey, Tricia McMillan, all helping out today. No Gabby answering your calls, of course, since we are pre-recorded. Every victory has within it some kind of loss, some kind of life lesson. The root of a thriving tree is usually a wounded one. And the Willis clan have in their backstory a really horrific, sad thing. Out of that has grown this flowering tree, and I'm so glad that you get to share in that today. Here's a little backstage story about the program. I do this broadcast from Arizona, and the Willis clan was live in Chicago, so just a couple of minutes into the conversation, my line dropped, and there was nothing. They couldn't hear me, I couldn't hear them. And the quick thinking of Nate and Tricia and Ryan when they said, play a song, and the Willis clan did. Before you hear that, though, let's meet the dad behind all of this, Toby Willis. If you want to find out more about the family, go to chrisfabrylive.org. Let's go back to August and enjoy the conversation and the music. Here we go. Toby, welcome to the program. How are you today?
I'm doing very good. Thanks for having us.
Can you... no, we should not start on this note. Let's start on the positive note of the thing. Can you believe what has happened to your kids?
I'm happy for them. They've been working very hard, and I mean, God has blessed us in many ways, but it's good to see that they're doing well. I've been paying for them for a long time, and it's good to see them prosper.
Now, at this point, my line dropped, and I couldn't hear them, and they couldn't hear me, and there was what they call in the business dead air, until Toby said,
I think we lost Chris.
Our evil plan is working. I'm just kidding.
That's the first time I've heard that. Those are quick-thinking people right there. All right, let's hear some music. The City That I'm Looking For. Here's the Willis Clan.
I've been to Chicago and I've seen its tallest tower, rising high in silver spears, great displays of power. They got a lot of pretty things a man cannot ignore, but it's still not the city that I'm looking for. I've seen New York City now, all covered in the snow, shining bright with colored lights everywhere I go. But I feel something missing here and I long for something more. Oh, it's still not the city that I'm looking for. And every time that I try to rest my troubled soul, all I find is I'm not at home. And I will walk every road the world may have in store, but it's still not the city that I'm looking for. I've been out to see LA in all its glory fine, to get a taste of Hollywood some would call divine. But every sip upon my lip would kill me at the core, knowing this is not the city that I'm looking for. And every time that I try to rest my troubled soul, all that I'm looking for. Seems like just as long as I remember, I've never found the place I want to find. But as long as I can get there by forever, I'll admit that I don't really mind. 'Cause somewhere in that city by the pretty crystal sea, I've been told of streets of gold and a mansion there for me. And nothing here can make me fear the promise of that shore. Oh, and that's the kind of city that I'm looking for. And every time that I try to rest my troubled soul, all I find is I'm not at home. And I will walk every road the world may have in store, but it's still not the city that I'm looking for. Oh, that's the kind of city that I'm looking for. Oh, that's the kind of city that I'm looking for.
That's good. That is so good. And I'm sorry I had to bow out there for a moment while you guys sang.
I think one of my kids hit a wire on you.
Yeah, that's what it was. I got in the wire in the corner. That is just... Now, Tricia tells me that you guys wrote that for this America's Got Talent. You just wrote that a couple of weeks ago. Is that right?
Yeah, we actually hadn't been to New York as a family until just recently. We went up for the Today Show and then the different rounds of America's Got Talent. And I don't know, the song just talks about kind of what I was feeling at the time. When we first went up, I wanted to write a song. I got inspired, and I couldn't quite get it. And then the second time again, and it was just bothering me, and I couldn't figure out how much I was inspired, and yet there was something wrong about it, and the song just wouldn't come out. And then, ironically, the last time... before I wrote that song, the last time I came back to New York, Dad had gotten off, was waiting in the, anyway, we were at the airport, we were waiting in line with a Mennonite, or was it an Amish man?
It was kind of funny on an airplane.
Yeah, so anyway, Dad got in this conversation with them, and I walked up and I was listening to them talk, and they're in the middle of New York City in this airport, and they're talking about their farms and their homes and their land, and it was amazing to see how much these two men had in common. And someone said the line, I can't remember if it was my dad, I think it was my dad, and they were talking about cities, and Dad said, yeah, but that's not the city that I'm looking for. And I was like, that is it. That's the
gold.
line that I've been missing. I had everything else surrounding it. I just didn't have that line, and it made so much sense because that really does sum up even coming to Chicago, coming to New York, all the different cities mentioned in that song. That's what I feel when I'm there. So,
have your guys, Jessica, you keep going. You're 21, as I understand. Is that right?
22. My brother Jared's 21, but yeah.
Okay. Is this something that you feel like God has enabled you guys to do together? I mean, in other words, you guys would be doing the same thing that you're doing right now for as many people as would listen. It's just that God has kind of risen you up to sing to more people than you would in your hometown,
I
right?
see what you're saying. Yes. Me personally, that is exactly how I feel. I would sing the songs if there's one person, if there's 10 people, if there's 10 million people. It doesn't really matter to me because sometimes I think you're given something for one very specific small purpose, and you may not know what that is. And then it's amazing sometimes you think, oh, maybe my job's done here, and God's actually using you for a much, much bigger purpose, which is really, really cool to see. And I think He's used our family a lot, and that's really cool to see that leading and that working.
Well, it's cool to see a big family. They probably told you, my wife and I have 9 children.
That's
and
awesome.
people look at us, with like we have 3 heads, or we do constitute a bus ministry anytime we go to church, So, so Toby, did you guys start out and think we're going to have 12, we're going to have a dozen kids? This is what we want to do.
Yes, actually, my wife and I, before we got married, I had the conversation, and we said, we were going to try for 12 kids. I don't think she had any clue what she was getting into because she didn't come from a large family, but I did. So, but you know what? She's stuck with it, and God's been very good to us. And so, yes, we have 12 children.
Dad has
I want
always
to talk
said,
with.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dad has always said if 12 disciples was good enough for Jesus, then 12 kids is
There
good
you
enough
go.
for me.
Now, is that Jennifer? Are you
Yeah.
Jennifer?
Yeah.
Hey.
Wow, yeah,
And
that's amazing.
Jer, okay, no, I've seen pictures now. Jer, what guitar are you playing?
I am
What kind of
playing a Taylor 814 CE.
Taylor 814C. There you go. And did you just put the strings on today? It so sounds like new strings to me.
You know what? You're very close. I've played one gig with these strings.
He doesn't. They don't have long life expectancy when you're playing Irish music. They snap
That's
off
right.
from time to time.
I was at a place on Saturday, and there's a guy who just was playing. He broke 2 strings in the middle of, his 6-string guitar. He only had 4 left, and he said, I'm going to play those 4 till I die. You're listening to the Willis Clan today on
Sometimes you
Chris
do-
Fabry Live,
sometimes you
and
have
a
to do that.
command performance from August of this year. More music in the studio with the 12 kids. We'll hear from Mom and Dad. You'll hear the backstory that I mentioned just a little bit ago. I think you're going to enjoy it today on Chris Fabry Live. Online, chrisfabrylive.org. You're listening to Chris Fabry Live direct from Moody Radio. It's great to have you here, listening or re-listening. Tell a friend about the program and how they can hear us online right here. You are our best means of advertisement, really, and our best ministry resource because you help us spread the word about quality broadcasts. Now let's get back to the program. Our program is Chris Fabry Live. We are not live with you today, however. You can find out more about our featured artists at chrisfabrylive.org. Here is the official introduction of the Willis Clan, ranging in age from 3 to 22. The Willis Clan is a family act starting in traditional Irish music and dance. The 12 brothers and sisters have branched out into other music and dance genres, thrilling audiences across America and Ireland. With their variety show, the kids are not just champion musicians and dancers, songwriters, choreographers, athletes, artists, craftsmen, and poets. This wide range of talent allows them to create unique shows of original material, a unique blend of the old and the new. They've won championships in swing, ballroom, and Irish dance. I can't do that on the radio here, but just take my word for it. 12 state titles in wrestling and world championships of Irish music. They are regulars on the Grand Ole Opry. Wow. They played at fairs and festivals around the nation and were recently featured on Season 9 of America's Got Talent. And it was 2 weeks ago, I believe, that the elimination came. Is that true? Is that right?
That is
'Cause I know
correct, yes.
Okay.
To the day,
I
I believe.
To the day.
the day.
And they had the last 12 or the semifinal or whatever they call it last night, and I couldn't watch them because you guys weren't on. I didn't want to see it.
We still have some really good friends that are on. Actually, that was the coolest part of that whole experience, is meeting so many of the other acts. Really talented people, really sweet people, and even during the whole taping process, we had a lot of time to bond and to get to know each other and cause trouble around set.
Yes. And you got to learn how putting a TV program like that together. And then when you go on the Today Show and they come out to the farm in Nashville and they shoot, you can see how much they have to do to boil down to 2 or 3 minutes. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah, it is crazy when they come out and they shoot for 10 hours one day, and then it ends up being a 60-second little clip. And you're like, really? Was all that work really necessary?
So Jessica, Jeremiah, Jennifer, Jeanette, Jackson, Jedi, Jasmine, Juliet, Jamie, Joy, Jager. It is Jager, right?
Yes, Jager.
Okay. And Jada.
Wow.
That was really
Thank
good.
you. Thank
Dad
you very much.
can't even do that.
Now I want to go to Dad and ask birthdays.
Definitely cannot do that.
Yeah. That's
Well,
the thing.
there's 4 in
okay.
April and there's 4 in May.
I
so
think I can get the birthdays. I don't know if I can get my anniversary, if I can remember that one.
That's the important. All right. Now, we haven't heard from the matriarch of the family, Brenda. Why don't you jump in here? Why the J motif?
Well, that really wasn't planned. Toby and I really both loved the name Jessica, and then it came down to we wanted to name our boys Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel. So we just happened to pick Jeremiah first. And if Jenny had been a boy, she probably would have been Zeke. And so, but she was a girl, and we both liked the name Jenny. And if Jeanette had been a boy, she probably would have been Zeke. However, we named Jeanette after Toby's mom. She's Janet Lynn, and we named her Jeanette Lynn. So it came down to Jack, and we had to make a conscious decision. Were we going to stick with the J's, or were we going to depart? And we decided at that time to stick with the J's, and he is Jackson 5. Our fifth child.
Might as well keep on going there. Yeah, and I think Jeremiah's middle name is Scott. That's your dad's name, right, Toby?
That is correct.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, all the boys have the middle name Scott. All the boys are named after Toby's father.
Really?
We're not real creative when it comes to middle names.
Well, it's a great name for a great man.
Yes.
I've met him, and that's where I wanted. One of the things that I wanted to do. I was doing the morning program in Chicago in 1984, and on that November. Mm-hmm. And heard about this accident and, sketchy details at first, and then later on we knew more details, the fatalities. And Scott and Janet, your mom and dad, Toby, were driving the car. There were 6 of your siblings in the back of that car, and all 6 perished in that accident. Most people have heard of this story through the publication of it, in the years after that. You told me something before we went on the air, though. You heard about this on the radio.
That is correct. Brenda and I we had been married and had 2 kids at the time, Jess and Jer. They were about, 2 and 1 or 3 and 2, somewhere around there. And we had gone down to the Art Institute in Chicago, the real famous one, and looking at all this stuff. And in traveling, we listened to the radio in the car and to and from, and to see what the traffic's like. And that's where I first heard about the radio, or about the accident. But they didn't give any names, because they hadn't contacted the family members yet. And, little did I know they were trying to get a hold of me. Wow. And they didn't know where I was until I got home.
Yes. That event has put itself over your life, obviously, the family's life, but it almost feels, and correct me if I'm wrong, it almost feels to me, as I look at what is happening here unfolding in your lives, that this is kind of the Job-like experience, that God is giving you abundance where there has been this great, tremendous loss. Am I getting that wrong?
I think you're exactly right, and we're so thankful to be able to experience that. And Job's one of the oldest books in the Bible, and I think that God's been very clear from the beginning that bad things will happen to all people. Good things happen to all people too, but so do bad things. And that we should not be surprised when they happen. We've been told how to react, and God has said that He will work everything out for good. And it's not only do I think that God has made that promise, but in some ways we have a choice how we respond. And when we choose to trust God and be faithful, God will bless us. But I think it's just so many people don't believe that, and then it becomes, I want to say, when they don't believe, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if you do believe and you do have a positive attitude, good things will happen. And so really, you have a choice to make. And, we've chosen to believe God and to live our life. And it's nice to be able to show the world, look, God is true. He always has been, always will be. But it's cool to be able to be on the happy side of that story and say, look at all the good things God is doing.
Yes. You remember your brothers and one sister. You can probably close your eyes right now and tell us some funny stories about things that happened at Christmas time and all of that. So they are a part of your family in a sense.
Probably and I've told a few people this, and probably, the thing that, especially as people hear my kids do the music and stuff, my brothers, I got to spend a lot of time with my brothers and my sister before, when they were little, and I lived really close to home and spent a lot of time, probably too much time, my dad said, with my brothers and sisters, although I'm very thankful for that now. But 2 days before the accident, Ben actually had played me his first song that he composed. And, I was the only guy in the world to ever get to hear that song. But all my brothers, they wrestled, they did music, both sang and played piano. And, in a sense, we're on band number 2 right now. We lost the first one, but someday there's going to be a big reunion, and boy, is that going to be a great jam session.
I can't wait to be there. I'm going to be in the audience. Jessica, do you feel their lives kind of running through the music that you sing and that you play?
Yeah, Dad got me emotional now. Dad told me that story when I was young, and Dad, I just, I mean, you hear about people like Mozart and Beethoven and amazing songwriters and composers through the years, and that's, okay, that's them. That's some famous person in history. And the fact that Dad wrote made it accessible to me, and it made it, oh, this is something normal. And especially when he told me the story about because I actually remember the kids just a little bit. I have a few memories of them, but I was really little. What was I, 2 at the time? Yeah, definitely. I think I actually wrote a piece for my Uncle Ben. My sister Jen wrote a piece as well. So I think that does kind of go with us everywhere we go to some degree. So,
let me do something here that I said I might do it, and I don't know what it'll sound like, but all the kids, anybody who wants to sing, I want to know what it's like in your living room when you guys are just, turn the TV off and maybe before you eat and you hold, I don't know if you hold hands or not.
We don't even have a television.
You don't have a television. Okay, great. No wonder you've got so much time to spend with music. But somebody just starts singing, Amazing Grace,
how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see.
That is great. So that's what it sounds like. Now, I'm sure that there are sometimes.
Well,
Brenda, you tell us. You had to ride herd here too, don't you?
Absolutely. In fact, I just took a bathroom break while you were talking to Toby because Jada had to run off to the restroom. Yeah, there's music everywhere in our house all the time. In fact, probably more likely than not, I'm saying stop playing 2 different songs in the same room. Go find another place to play a different song. Toby and I put the instruments on the wall. We got hooks and we put them on the wall so the kids would always have access to them. If they were in a case under a bed, they probably wouldn't get them out. And we put them up on the wall, gave the kids access to them, and then took them to live music events where they were inspired by real people up there on stage doing live things. Got them the CDs, and we figured they'd break them, and they didn't. They wore them out. And, it's just been a great inspiration, and there's music going on all the time in our house somewhere. People ask us...
Well, what a great place to live, though, too. In Nashville, you've got music everywhere. It's running like water.
Yeah, it's a huge family of musicians and producers and labels, and they all know each other, and if you get accepted into that family, it's just an awesome thing.
But how do you identify the talent, the unique talent of the child without saying, we got somebody to play the bongos over here. Can we get you to do, I mean, how do you figure that out?
By homeschooling, we have the opportunity to get to know the kids really, really well. And, at the beginning, I would say the older kids kind of got their choice a little bit more than the younger kids. Because the older kids, kind of filled in, because they were doing Irish music, and so they picked the melody instruments, and they were excited about those. And, you started seeing the talents develop. I mean, Jessica has great talents in writing, and she loves that so much. Jared, not so much, but he has the talent of being able to play any instrument that he picks up. That goes very well with Jessica.
I can tell it. And he can string that thing, too.
Yes, he can. So it's a neat thing to see their talents develop. And some of the younger ones, may or may not have had raw talent like Jess and Jared did, but they were so excited about what was going on that they worked maybe twice as hard to be able to be a part of it.
Yes. Okay, so Jennifer, I got to ask you then. what is it like to be third born? Because since we have a big family, I know what it's like to have that, the third child, and you feel like you're always competing with the first two because they're so good at everything.
Yes, definitely. I was actually one of those children that was not as musically gifted. I was a bit tone deaf when I was born and didn't really understand rhythm that well. But I actually absolutely loved to dance. When I was 4 years old, my parents got me started in Irish step dancing. And part of that is there's two types of Irish dancing. There's what's called soft shoe, and it's a lot closer to ballet, and then there's hard shoe dancing, which is very much like tap, and you make sounds with your feet. And I absolutely loved dancing, but I could not understand the rhythm. So my mom spent hours and hours. She probably spent like months of time with me, just like teaching me, just like first it was just clapping along to a song, and then it was, doing beats on my hands, and then eventually it was getting it down to my feet. And I really do think that all of my musical talent or whatever really came from my mom's, hours and hours of working with me. But yeah, just like Mom said, there's different gifts, each kid has. And something that I've noticed is, Jess might be a great songwriter and Jer might be a great musician, and I might be able to play, a certain instrument really well, but when we're all together, we're so much stronger than any of us would be individually.
Yes.
So.
And you know what the great thing is about that, Jennifer? The younger kids, these are not just window dressing. These kids, they are very cute, but they play an integral part to the group. We're going to hear more music from the Willis Clan. You can find out more about them online. Go to the website, chrisfabrylive.org. More with the Willises straight ahead here on Moody Radio. You're listening to Chris Fabry Live. Remember, you can link with us online at facebook.com. Just type in Chris Fabry Live. Also, the website has many more past programs you might be interested in, and you can support us there as well. We don't charge anything for this service, and you can help us in that way. All at chrisfabrylive.org. The Willis Clan, the children of Toby and Brenda Willis, are joining us today on Chris Fabry Live. We've got some live music here for you. You've seen them on America's Got Talent. They were there. They were eliminated 2 weeks ago, and here they are in Chicago in historic Studio B. I was telling them in the break that this is the same studio that George Beverly Shea used to sing in, and some greats from Moody Radio in days gone by. Let me take Bert's call in Mississippi before we go further. Bert, go right ahead. What do you want to say?
Thank you, Chris. Great program. This film is an absolute joy to listen to, much less see it perform. But I would ask the parents, I'm an older person, and I've seen great things happen early and then fall apart later. I want to know how they are preparing their children from the evil that's in this world that would encroach upon their lives.
Great question.
That is a good question. This is Toby, and Brenda and I have talked about it. We've talked to the kids about it, and one is very similar to any Christian, and that is you need to be part of a church, a group of people. And brothers and sisters and family and good Christian friends to try to keep each other accountable. And the other thing is, to make sure you have your priorities right. That simply going after the money isn't always, what. Well, sometimes that is, at the root of the problem. And so, there's no guarantees. We know that, but people have temptations and struggles no matter what they do. And we tried to kind of just do our own thing and try to keep our priorities right and keep God first and stay together as family.
Yeah. Anything to add to that? Anybody? Anyone want to say anything? Anybody else? How to avoid, because you've seen this happen. You've seen young people who make a big impression, and yet it feels like their life falls apart, right?
Yeah, I've totally seen that. One great thing, though, is if there's a single person, people are less afraid to come up and try to talk to them and maybe get them in a bad situation. But when I'm, particularly for me, when I'm surrounded by my siblings, some person is not just going to come up and single one of us out, because there's so many of us.
We're strong together.
So we are strong together. We protect each other, and as long as we stay together, we shouldn't run into very many problems.
We've also tried to hold the kids. This is kind of a weird way of looking at it, but this is the reason why. People have asked us for years, Toby and Brenda, why don't you let the kids just, cut them loose and let them just really go? And it's because of all the problems we've seen when people, when you send them out, they're too young, send them out, they're not in a group, and we're like, no, we're going to hold back, we're going to hold back, we're going to hold back. And again, we're looking at the long-term view, and yeah, maybe they could have had a big career and made a big mark, but it's not worth gaining the whole world and losing your soul.
And the other thing also would be Mom and Dad have also been really smart, I believe, in they're not just trying to keep us back from things. I think a lot of times, especially, I think you're mainly talking about kid stars and people that get to start early. They're exposed to a whole lot that they weren't ready for. Yes. And they are, when they feel like they're being held back, they feel like at some point they've really got to break free, and they go way further than they really need to. And, you see all these people trying to shed their child image, their child star image and things like that, and they just have to go so far to do that. And Mom and Dad we haven't just been in one circle and seen one type of music in one place. We've done a lot of different styles of music, a lot of different styles of dance. When we travel around, we get to visit all sorts of cities and communities and see different religions, see different practices, different ways of education, different way of living. And, a lot of times homeschool can be a sheltering thing, but it can also be a very wide variety. You actually get to see more if it's done that way. And so when you're little, you don't really notice and you can't appreciate as much. But as you get older, it's like, wow, they were consciously making a decision to do this and appreciate it so much. So
there might come a day, though, that let's stay with you, when you want to branch out, Jessica, when you say you get married, or maybe you just say, I want to do this over here. And I'm sure your parents and your siblings aren't going to say, well, no, you can't do that, of course. How are you going to make that decision?
Well, honest, we're already there, like with all the different kids. A lot of times in big families, people think, okay, they're all little cookie cutters. And you said you have 9 kids. That is not true. It's like, how can there possibly be? They're all born from the same parents. They grew up in the same house. How can people be so different than each other? And that cannot be ignored. And that's actually a strength. When people come to our shows, they're like, the variety is amazing. And you can, I don't know. Of course, you said you may want to get married at some point. Yeah, that may be something I want to do in the future.
Well, it might also expand the group too, right?
Yeah, very much so. There has been those conversations, let me tell you. So,
yeah.
But the best thing about having such a large family, for example, like just from the band's perspective, Jessica is our lead singer. So if, she wanted to get married or go and do her own thing or whatever, it would be, a pretty hard hit to the band, most people would think. But the nice thing is Jasmine, our 12-year-old, is a fantastic singer as well, and she just can't wait
for
Jenny.
We have our own minor league system.
Yeah, we have a whole new band that is just waiting to take our spot.
The secret is it's actually a perpetual band, because the little kids, they're it's a perpetual kid band. The little kids are so eager to get on stage that we give them, they work up a number, we add it to the show, and they just kind of grow into it. And there's still so many that aren't even showing their talents. Jada learned songs as we're rolling down the road. I swear we had to go 8 blocks in New York City. It took us 2.5 hours. And for 2.5 hours, we heard "Would You Go, Lassie Go" at the top of Jada's lungs. And it's just, there's another singer coming right up the line. So.
I don't know that song. I'm going to have to hear that one. That might be
maybe she'll
hit.
grace us with it later.
Yeah.
It's an old Irish song, so.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's a very old song.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's time for more music. I want to hear something, and maybe, Jessica, you tell me about Paid in Full. What is this about?
Sure. This is, again, a pretty recent song. We're just going to do a kind of acoustic version of it here. Haven't recorded it yet as a band. I wrote it recently, ish within this last year. And I don't know. It's funny. You can kind of trace back where you get your individual inspiration for each song. And sometimes it's a very poetic, romantic sort of idea. And then sometimes it's just a very basic fact that you see, or a combination of the two. And I think this was a combination. I had been in some conversations with some friends, and the whole point of this story was really kind of weighing on my heart. And then literally, I looked down at a stack of bills on Mom's desk, and I saw paid in full circled on one of the bills, and I went, there again is the title for this concept and this idea that I was trying to, specifically get out. And then the song just kind of fell out from there, so.
All right, well, let's hear it. It's the Willis Clan, Paid in Full.
Oh, and I was weak and sore when he found me huddled up against the door. Oh, and why he let me stay instead of telling me to go upon my way. He said that he was once like me, as low as anyone can be. Not many people understand. Then he bent to take my hand. He said that I could be set free from every burden that was hanging over me. There was a way that I could find that would relieve me of the past I left behind. There was nowhere else to go, no way to pay the debt I owed. I had to fall to finally see what the stranger said to me. It's paid in full, dear brother, paid in full. Paid in full, dear sister, paid in full. Night is turned to day and the stone is rolled away. Paid in full, dear brother, paid in full. Oh, and I was sinking down in the mire of the guilt I carried round. Oh, and I was holding on to every time I knew I'd done somebody wrong. But grace is given and not earned. I still remember when I learned. Oh, those many years ago, an act of kindness let me know it's paid in full, dear brother, paid in full. Paid in full, dear sister, paid in full. Night is turned to day and the stone is rolled away. Paid in full, dear brother, paid in full. Oh, when you lay down and cry, you don't even understand the reason why. Oh, but you could let it go in the promise of the truth I've come to know. It's paid in full, dear brother, paid in full. Paid in full, dear sister, paid in full. Night is turned to day and the stone is rolled away. Paid in full, dear brother, paid in full. It's paid in full, dear brother, paid in full. Paid in full, dear sister, paid in full. Night is turned to day and the stone is rolled away. Paid in full, dear brother, paid in full.
Wonderful music from the heart, from the Willis Clan, today on Chris Fabry Live. We are not live with you today. This is a pre-recorded broadcast. The Willis Clan stopped by in August. They brought their bus alongside us here at Moody Broadcasting, Moody Radio in Chicago. And you can find out more about them at the website, chrisfabrylive.org, chrisfabrylive.org. I didn't know what was going to happen in the studio that day. With 12 kids and mom and dad, boy, I sure had an awful lot of fun. I hope you are having fun here today, too. We'll hear more from them in our final segment straight ahead on Moody Radio. This is Chris Fabry Live, and we have one more segment to go on the program. A perfect time to remind you, Moody Radio is listener-supported. You are our lifeline to on-air, live streams, podcasts, the whole shooting match worldwide. Thank you for your support at chrisfabrylive.org. Our remaining moments with the Willis clan today on Chris Fabry Live. Our program is pre-recorded back in August. The Willis clan came along, 12 brothers and sisters, mom and dad. We've made allusion to some of the difficulty that was 20 years ago. As a matter of fact, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of the accident. And you can find out more about the Willis clan at chrisfabrylive.org. At this point in the program, we gave a dated reference to Milwaukee, but I want you to hear what Brenda had to say when I asked her to tell us about what's going on there.
You know, we've been on the road since July 20th, and the kids, I think, are getting more and more excited, and like they're having just like jumping fits in the car. But one of the things we're going to do at Milwaukee this year, it's one of the largest Irish festivals in the world, not just in America, but in the world. And kind of one of the places that inspired us to do Irish music right from the beginning, in addition to the Chicago Celtic Fest. But since the accident happened near Milwaukee, Milwaukee's been very involved in our family over the last 20 years. And last year when we were at the festival, Jenny did Road to Watertown, and she just briefly mentioned the accident, and that's why she wrote the piece. And people started coming out of the woodwork after the show and said, you know, I was there at the scene of the accident. I was the paramedic that put Ben in the helicopter, or I was the police chief that was investigating, or I was the nurse that was taking care of your mom. And anyway, it was just really emotional for all of us, and we really didn't expect that. So since this year was the 20th anniversary, we thought, well, maybe we should capitalize on that a little bit and get the whole family together. And so Toby's mom and dad will be coming, and his brother Dan and his sister Amy and all the grandkids. And we'll be doing Road to Watertown. They prepared a little short video piece of an interview with Toby's parents and some of the original footage from the press conference and pictures of the kids and the scene of the accident, things like that.
Yes.
And just reach out and tell those people thank you for all that they've done, and let people know.
A lot of people would say, let's forget that. Let's just move on. That was in the past. That is so painful. And you guys are saying, yes, it is painful, but it's part of the story. And so many people, their hearts went out to you and the family and everybody involved.
Well, the story has had a lot of negative buzz about it over the last 20 years because of the political things in Chicago and all that. So in addition to the tragedy, there's also been the scandal with it. And we really have come into the limelight, so to speak, because of America's Got Talent. And we kind of want to have a happy ending, a positive closure on it, and just tell people, you know what, there's been a lot of good things that have happened since then, not just the scandal and the tragedy.
Good for you for living that fully, and Scott and Janet too. I know that they have struggled well with that, and so I pray that this thing in Milwaukee is just going to lift everybody up.
Yeah, we certainly hope so.
God, of course. Let me take Tom's call here because he wants to talk to Toby. Hey, Tom, go right ahead.
Hey, how you doing, Chris?
Doing well, thanks.
Good. Hey, Toby, you probably don't remember me, but my name's Coach Harless. I was a wrestling coach over at Naperville North High School, and your father brought you over there to wrestle a few times. They had a little club that went on, and your father was also the wrestling coach at Batavia Middle School at the junior high, and we had an opportunity to sit down and talk at our 50th anniversary of the wrestling program, and I'd just like you to share a little bit about your experience. I know with wrestling and how dedication, the dedication that's involved with it, and so I don't know if you remember that part.
Well, that's going way back.
Yeah, it is. Is that you were just a youngster, and I know that your father would bring you around and you wrestle. He brought you ever. You wrestled competitively, and I know he put you into the public school system, got you into the IHSA, so that you were able to win that state title, which was just amazing after not competing in the traditional manner, like a lot of the the IHSA.
Are the kids' eyes open? Are the kids' eyes wide open now hearing this story about Dad?
Oh, we know this side of Dad very well.
Well, you know, one of the things I can say is all my sons have wrestled, and they're all state champions, sometimes multiple state champions. So wrestling continues on in our household, and there's a lot of things about the sport, which I have to say is the only sport mentioned in the Bible when you really think about it. Just put that plug in there a little bit. But
no, that's not true, because baseball's mentioned in Genesis.
Well, yeah,
in the beginning.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, and Joseph
tennis.
served in Pharaoh's court.
Pharaoh's court, there's tennis, yeah.
Yeah, I know. You know, it's interesting because a lot of people don't know the history of the sport, and one of the interesting things is all the Greeks and the Romans sent their kids to wrestling schools. They did not send them to academic schools. They sent them to wrestling schools. And their extracurricular activity at the wrestling school were their academics. And one of the reasons why it was so important throughout all the classical, period was it was tough. You put your kids, purposely in tough situations to toughen them. And, of course, the Spartans not only put their boys, they put their girls, too. But there's something to be said about making people tough, because you know what? It's not always an easy world. And I think, it seems like wrestling comes out of nowhere, but no, it doesn't. When you sit there and you go up and you face the lion, you face the bear, then when the giant comes up, you're like, you know what? I can handle him too. And, of course, with God's help all the time. But, I think when you're not afraid, whether it's stepping on the mat, facing the giants, whatever it is, tough things happen in your life. It's like, hey, I know life is supposed to be tough. I've been taught that life is going to be tough, and I've been told you tough it out. And I think wrestling's an integral part of training up a child in this world. And I think I tease my sons that you learn to wrestle so you can beat all the boys, and you learn to dance so you can get the best girl. And there's
I never heard it put that quite that way.
There's certain points where you learn certain. There are important things. You should learn logic to learn how to think. You've got to learn your Bible to know why you're here, where you're going, what you're supposed to do. And it's amazing how many of these important things that used to be extremely important in even the ancient world or in other cultures have been dropped from our culture today. And then we wonder why, we end up with the messed up situations that we have. And, I think obviously, the Bible is the most important, but I think that there's, we need to sit there and take stock of the skills that we need to teach our kids. And yeah, wrestling was one of them, and still is.
Well, here's what we're going to do. Next time you guys come through, we're going to have, it's only going to be Jeanette and Jackson and Jedi and Jasmine, Juliet, Jamie, Joy, Jager, and Jada. Okay, it's all. And Jessica and Jeremiah and Jennifer, you guys, because Jeanette, 18, you didn't even get to talk today, Jeanette. So you got to come back, and all of you.
That's okay with me.
Is that?
Yeah, you can ask any one of my brothers and sisters. I'm not usually the one to talk on stage or in a microphone in general, but I'll play
Good
music.
for you guys.
I'll play music.
We are so proud of you. The whole country is proud of you, and gave a lift even to people who aren't of the same faith. I think looking in, they have looked in at your family and say, there's something different. There's something different here. So thank you for being bright lights on that stage that God allowed you to be on, and you keep doing that, and come back and see us again, okay?
All right, thank you so much for having us. It's really fun.
There they are, the Willis Clan, and it's been a real pleasure. You can find out more about their music. We have it linked right at chrisfabrylive.org. And come on back tomorrow. Program's production of Moody Radio in Chicago.
Most of us would like to give more than we do. We'd love to give more of our time and finances to further the kingdom of God, but our resources seem limited. Actually, you can make a difference without affecting your budget. The Stewardship Department at Moody Bible Institute has trained financial advisors who can explain how to donate your appreciated assets to Moody. Whether you have stocks, bonds, or gifts in kind, your donation may have tax benefits for you, while making it possible for students to train for ministry, outreach, evangelism, missions, and more. Contact Moody Stewardship today for creative options. Learn how to use your investments to invest in eternity.
Write Moody Radio, 820 North LaSalle Boulevard, Chicago, Illinois, 60610, or visit moodyradio.org.
Well, we sure hope you enjoyed the program today. I'm Chris Fabry, hoping you will visit us at the website for updates, past programs, links to guests, my website and blog, and a whole lot more. And don't forget to join us for our next visit at the Radio Backyard Fence, and thanks for your support. Contact us online today at chrisfabrylive.org.